Marisha here, and in my last video, I talked about how I went up north to several cities last week, and I talked about Sheffield, but I said I would discuss some of the other cities in other videos, so today I'm going to talk about Liverpool. And I'll be honest, I picked a bad time to go to Liverpool because Tate Liverpool, the Slavery Museum, and the Maritime Museum are all currently closed for renovations. So those are three big things I would have liked to have seen that I didn't get to see. So for this video, I'm going to talk about two things. One thing that was a disappointment, and then I'll finish with what's my number one recommendation of what you should see when you go to Liverpool. So, starting with the disappointment, and that is Beatles' story. So, I think most Americans, and I would guess maybe most Brits, when they think of Liverpool, they think of the Beatles and probably think, well, if you're going to Liverpool, you need to do something Beatles related. And I certainly felt that way, especially as someone who was a big Beatles fan when I was in middle school. I subsequently sort of moved on from that, but certainly there's a bit of like nostalgia for them. So I went to the Beatles story. And when you enter, you go downstairs and you have to buy your ticket from a kiosk and then a person scans your ticket. Now, why they can't have a person selling tickets if they have to scan them anyway, I don't know, but whatever, fine. I'll buy my ticket from the kiosk. And then you go into line to head into the museum. But first, they have a pit stop where people get their pictures taken against a green screen, and I assume that they end up photoshopping the people in with the Beatles in some way. Now, I didn't want to do this because it's ridiculous, um, but I had to wait behind two parties, and after the first party went, and the second party, the one right in front of me, started to be put in place by the woman who was working it and being given props, I said, "Hey, can I skip this?" And she said, "Well, let me just get their picture taken." And I'm thinking that just defeats the point of me saying, "Can I skip this?" Like, I shouldn't have to wait in line behind other people for this. I should be able to go straight into the museum. But that is not how this place is set up. There's like you're roped off, so you can't. You have to literally go around where this photo is being taken. Um, and the people in front of me, I think one of them was given like a bass guitar. So it's like, okay, what? You're going to be photoshopped in playing bass next to Paul or instead of Paul? Like, I don't know. Um, but she was going to swap out their props for like a second picture. And I was able to go then to go around and get my audio guide. And honestly, that kind of thing, getting your picture taken in front of a green screen so that later on you can buy at exorbitant prices a printout of some photoshopped thing. That's like the money grabbing stuff that you see at like amusement parks. And I just thought, usually when that happens, though, there is an option to completely bypass it, right? Like it's happening kind of over here, or somebody has like little cards, and or they quickly take your picture. You're not even like pose. They just quickly take your picture and then hand you a card or whatever. Whenever I've encountered that before, there's a way to like easily get around it, not do it at all, or it doesn't take any of your time, right? Like you're able to get in and to what you want to do. And the fact that I had to wait in line behind other people getting their photos taken for this thing that I did not want to do completely ruined it for me. It like just automatically put me in a bad mood so that by the time I collected my audio guide and I was going along the little trail that you're supposed to take, and I'm sitting here trying to listen to my audio guide, and I'm already angry about the fact that they tried to pull this money grabbing baloney. Um, and then I'm stuck with I have to listen to an audio guide for this thing. And most of what I'm seeing, there's not enough written about it. It's all in the audio guide. For me, I would rather read about what I'm seeing than listen to it because I can read a lot faster than the person can speak. And I also then can scan and say, well, look, okay, I really don't care about this stuff. This paragraph, though, I can see there's information here that I want to know. I'll skip to that paragraph. You can't really do that with the audio guide because you're not sure, where it's going to go with what it's saying. And there were all these additional, like, optional things that you could press to hear different things, but none of it was interesting enough to me that I felt it was worth my time to listen to it. So I listened to a few things on the audio guide, but I skipped a lot, either because A, I wasn't interested, or B, the other thing that I don't like about the way this museum was set up, and there are other museums that do this, is when it's like mostly audio guide, then you sort of get stuck with groups of people because everybody's sort of going at the same pace because you're listening to the same audio guide. And sometimes those people are annoying, right? You get a couple where the husband is like mansplaining the Beatles to his wife every room that you go into. And he's like, I can't take it after a while. And so I will actually skip a few exhibits just to escape from those people, right? And there's a lot of ways that people can annoy you in a museum. And I find that I'm easily annoyed by them. So if a museum is like mostly audio guide based, I do tend to miss out on some things for that reason. Um, and that was the case with the Beatles story. And it was a big museum, and there were a couple of places where it wasn't really clear where you were supposed to be going. For the most part, it was, especially if you're trying to follow the numbers of what's in the audio guide. But then there were places where there wasn't anything in the audio guide, and then there was a whole section for A Hard Day's Night movie, which would have been like one of my favorites. And I'm glad that I ended up stumbling upon it because it was sort of like off in this other place and it wasn't part of the audio guide or anything. And I actually happened to sort of stumble upon it. And subsequently, I was out of curiosity, I read some TripAdvisor reviews after the fact to see what people were saying about it. I read some negative reviews because I was like, man, this is reviewed really well on TripAdvisor and I don't agree with that. Let me read some of the negative views and see what people said. And one of the things that people brought up was like, we didn't know where to go. like we weren't given directions of like exactly where to go. And I would agree with that to some extent. And then by the time you get done and you head into the gift shop, which is huge and incredibly overpriced. I'm like, 10 pounds for a pen? Give me a break. I know this was made in China in a sweatshop. Come on. It just felt like a huge money grab and like the sort of thing that I think you would have to be a huge Beatles fan, like a huge Beatles fan, to go there and feel like it was worth your time and your money. And even then, I'm wondering if someone was a huge Beatles fan, they would already know a lot of the stuff that was being told in the museum anyway. I know that there's another Beatles museum in Liverpool, and so if I go back later when other things are open and I'm able to see, like Tate Liverpool and stuff, I might try that one and see if it's better in terms of being more of an actual like history museum and less of a we just want to figure out ways to take more of your money kind of a thing. Um, but I can't recommend the Beatles story. I really can't. I feel like um, a lot of the information you could probably find online or in any books you could check out from the library. A lot of the things that are on display are replicas. It's not like they didn't have a ton of artifacts that were um, like originals. And even considering all of the artifacts, some of which were reproductions, it felt like there weren't a lot. It relied heavily on recreating like the various clubs where the Beatles played. And I feel like, I don't know, if you were a really big fan, especially the ones that are in Liverpool, maybe just take a Beatles tour and go see the original club itself. Um, yeah, so enough of that, just like don't go. But moving on to happier things, and that is the thing that I think is best in Liverpool, again considering I didn't get to see everything that I would have liked, but of what I did see, I would say that you really should go to the Walker Art Gallery. Walker Art Gallery, like so many things in the UK, free to go. I'm a little bit biased because I love the Pre-Raphaelites, and they do have a room that is just Pre-Raphaelite artwork, as well as some other Pre-Raphaelites in other rooms. So that was great. But it's not all Pre-Raphaelite stuff, so if that's not your thing, that's fine. There's plenty of other art to be seen. It's 2 stories. The second story, or well, for Americans, the first floor for Brits is largely paintings. And again, there's a good variety of paintings. And then the ground floor, there is a whole section dedicated to statues and then crafts. And so there's actually a variety of crafts on display, from stained glass windows to sort of like textiles and ceramics and all those sorts of things. And at the time, in the crafts section, there was also a special exhibit on Vivienne Westwood fashion. So again, like a lot of good variety of things to see. They had a decent shop. I treated myself to a book of Pre-Raphaelite art, so I was excited about that. And then the other thing that they have going for them is they have a nice cafe where you can get scouse, the traditional Liverpool stew, and it is served with a side of pickled cabbage, which I think is the traditional thing to serve with scouse, if I was reading up correctly, as well as a roll with butter. And so I think it was like £9. So I think that's a decent price to pay for a nice lunch. And it was a really good couple of hours to wander around, look at some art, have a leisurely lunch of traditional Liverpudlian fare. And then there was a special exhibition that I wasn't interested in, so I didn't go. But if I were to go back and they had a different exhibition that I liked, I could get half off with my National Art Pass. I talk about the National Art Pass a lot in my videos, but I'm still going to put another plug in for it here, and that is, if you live in the UK, definitely get a National Art Pass, because it will pay for itself, like, over and over again. Like, you will definitely get your money's worth for getting a National Art Pass. So if you go to Liverpool, I might wait a couple of years before you go, if you're planning a trip, maybe, because those other 3 things are closed, and I think it would be nice to be able to have access to those. But definitely check out Walker Art Gallery, and I would say skip Beatles Story. Like, subscribe, tell your friends how gnarly this channel is, and I'll see you next time.